Well, it's been an incredible weekend of news, some good, some bad, some almost completely unbelievable, which we will get to. But I want to start today with an incredible piece of reporting in Rolling Stone from Hunter Walker, where Hunter has put together story after story of the January 6th Trump rioters meeting with Republicans, with Trump White House staff. And it is all coming together to paint a very specific picture, which is that there were so many people involved in this thing, and mere expulsion from the House of Representatives would not be enough. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's start with the Rolling Stone piece. Hunter Walker writes, exclusive. January 6 protest organizers say they participated in, quote, dozens of planning meetings with members of Congress and White House staff. Two sources are communicating with House investigators and detailed a stunning series of allegations to Rolling Stone, including a promise of a blanket pardon from the Oval Office. This, if even 5% of this is as described, this is historic. Historic. Let's look. As the House investigation into the January 6th attacks heat up, some of the planners of the pro-Trump rallies that took place in Washington, D.C. have begun communicating with congressional investigators and sharing new information about what happened when the former president's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. Two of these people have spoken to Rolling Stone extensively in recent weeks and detailed explosive allegations that multiple members of Congress were intimately involved in planning both Trump's efforts to overturn his election loss and the January 6th events that turned violent. Rolling Stone separately confirmed a third person involved in the main January 6th rally has communicated with the committee. This is the first report that the committee is hearing major new allegations from potential cooperating witnesses. While there have been prior indications that members of Congress were involved, this is also the first account detailing their purported role and its scope. The two sources also claim they interacted with members of Trump's team, including former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who they describe as having an opportunity to prevent the violence. Look at the scope of this. The two sources, both of whom have been granted anonymity due to the ongoing investigation, describe participating in dozens of planning briefings ahead of the big day when Trump supporters broke into the Capitol as his election loss to Joe Biden was being certified. Here we go. I remember Marjorie Taylor Greene specifically, the organizer says. I remember talking to probably close to a dozen other members at one point or another, or their staffs. For the sake of clarity, we will refer to one of the sources as a rally organizer and the other as a planner. Rolling Stone confirmed both sources were involved in organizing the main event aimed at objecting to the electoral certification, which took place at the White House Ellipse on January 6th. Trump spoke at that rally and encouraged his supporters to march to the Capitol. It then gets wild. Along with Greene, the conspiratorial pro-Trump Republican from Georgia who took office earlier this year, the pair both say the members who participated in these conversations or had top staffers join include Representative Paul Gosar from Arizona, Representative Lauren Boebert, Mo Brooks, Madison Cawthorn, Andy Biggs, and Louis Gohmert. It's a who's who of the most extreme members of Congress. We would talk to Boebert's team, Cawthorn's team, Gosar's team like back to back to back to back, says the organizer. Now look at this allegation. Gosar, one of the most prominent defenders of the rioters, allegedly took things a step further. Both sources say he dangled the possibility of a blanket pardon in an unrelated ongoing investigation to encourage them to plan the protests. Our impression was that it was a done deal, the organizer says, that he'd spoken to the president about it in the Oval, in a meeting about pardons, and that our names came up. They were working on submitting the paperwork and getting members of the House Freedom Caucus to sign on as a show of support. The organizer claims the pair received several assurances about the blanket pardon from Gosar. I was just going over the list of pardons, and we wanted to tell you guys how much we appreciate all the hard work you've been doing, Gosar said, according to the organizer. The rally planner describes the pardon as being offered while, quote, encouraging the staging of protests against the election. The allegation is pardons dangled in exchange for organizing the January 6th riots. Can you imagine? I would have done it either way, with or without the pardon, the organizer says. I do believe in this country, but to use something like that and put that out on the table when someone is so desperate, it's really not good business. Gozar's office did not respond to requests for the story. Rolling Stone separately obtained documentary evidence that both sources were in contact with Gozar and Boebert. They don't seem to be lying about that part. We are not describing the nature of that evidence to preserve their anonymity. And every paragraph is crazy. These specific members of Congress were involved in the pro-Trump activism around the election certification. Brooks and Cawthorn spoke with Trump at the Ellipse on January 6th. In his speech at that event, Brooks, who was reportedly wearing body armor, which why do you do that unless you suspect you might need it, declared today is the day American patriots start taking down names and kicking ass. Gozar, Green, and Boebert were billed as speakers at the wild protest, which took place on January 6th at the Capitol. Nick Dyer, who is Marjorie Taylor Greene's comms director, said she was solely involved in planning to object to the electoral certification on the House floor. Spokespeople for other members of Congress who the sources describe as involved in the planning for protests did not respond to requests for comment. It seems, folks, as if individuals here are lawyering up and being very, very careful. Very, very careful. By the way, we have video of some of these people admitting they were involved in planning. Now, they would say, well, we just planned a procedural objection. It's becoming harder and harder to believe that that's the limit of it. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out back in December of 2020. Listen. Man, she's gross.
Just finished with our meetings here at the White House this afternoon. We had a great planning session for our January 6th objection.
At the White House, planning for January 6th. Now, of course, you'll say, but we weren't planning for violence. No.
We aren't going to let this election be stolen by
Really?
Joe Biden and the Democrats.
Wow.
President Trump won by a landslide. Call your House reps, call your senators from your states. We've got to make sure they're on board, and we already have a lot of people engaged. Okay, stay tuned.
So this is one of the biggest revelations about the January 6th riots. It's really incredible work by Hunter Walker, who researched and wrote this piece for Rolling Stone. Pardons dangled. People who we already believed were involved or admit to have been coordinating events that day with the White House, allegedly doing far more than that. And it's, you know, all of these folks are playing their roles. The Gozar pardon. Never trust a promise or an intimation from these people, especially if they're asking you to do something they wouldn't do, which Gozar had no interest in going to this thing. But Gozar was certainly interested in encouraging others by dangling a pardon which never came. Trump told his supporters, let's go to the Capitol right now. He went and then watched on TV. But he said, we're going down Pennsylvania Avenue. This story, this explosive story, was nowhere on Fox News this morning. Nowhere on foxnews.com. Maybe they'll mention it at some point, but like it didn't even happen is their approach so far. What should the consequences be? Well, let's talk about what AOC says. One of our sponsors is Cometeer Coffee, the world's first frozen coffee. I've been very impressed with the coffee I've had from Cometeer. Cometeer sources their beans from some of the world's best locally owned specialty roasters. And the Cometeer team has developed their own way of protecting the freshness and aroma of the coffee by taking its concentrated liquid form and flash freezing it so it keeps those original flavors and nuances. Cometeer comes to you frozen. You just add hot water. Or for iced coffee, you just melt it. You can use it to make a ton of different hot and cold coffee drinks. The way they lock in the flavor like this, you really can taste it. It tastes fresh. I've been getting a ton of enjoyment out of Cometeer. They've got a great variety of coffees. It's delicious. The way you make it is super convenient. And you'll get $20 off when you go to cometeer.com/Pacman. The link is underneath this video.